Alright, we are going to continue tearing this Yamaha XT250 down. We're going to pull the clutches apart here. I've loosened all these Phillips bolts around the outside, so we will go ahead and remove those. Alright, we've got 10 going around the outside, and then we might have to remove these as well. So that one goes back into the crankcase, and then there's a Allen here, a 5mm Allen, that we'll remove as well. So with that, leaving it soaked like that with WD-40, we were able to pull that cylinder off. Then to get the piston off, turn the crank so dead center, take a screwdriver, pull the clip out, make sure that doesn't go flying. Then we can take a screwdriver or something. Obviously, again, this piston is no good, and neither is the pin. We can just tap that pin out of there. So once we get it past the rod, we can just lift that piston off of there. So we've got oil filter cover off here. There's your oil filter. Make sure that goes in the right direction. Open side towards the crank. Then the covered side goes against the cover. It's got a rubber seal right there, kind of pushes against there. Put some tension on there. So this cover is ready to come off here. There's a gasket going around this cover here, so make sure that gasket goes back together, goes back in there. Got your Kickstarter gear here, and then we've got your, I'll tip this motor up so you can see a little bit better, we've got your clutch basket here. The clutch basket at this time, 10mm. Pull these off here. Make sure we save these. Those are specific for this clutch basket. Now what we're going to do is pull this, just the top cover, kind of wiggle it so it doesn't pull any other plates out off there. And then we've got a large nut on the inside here. And we've got a keeper. Flatten that keeper. Remove this nut. We'll go ahead and grab a socket to fit that. Got 1 3/16. We'll fit on that one there. And then hold the basket so it doesn't spin, and loosen that nut there. I'll take that nut right off of there. Now what you're able to do then is put this back on, and you can see there's an arrow that lines up with the arrow on your basket. Kind of thread these in there. Don't start these with an impact just because it's an aluminum basket. We don't want to strip those threads out, otherwise you'll be replacing the basket. Once there's a little bit of pressure on there, you're able to lift that clutch assembly out all at one time. So we've got your clutch assembly here. This spacer generally will stay on the clutch, and the reason why it does is because it's kind of a keeper. It'll spin, a bit of a turn there, and it'll not line up with these splines, allowing this to come off, allowing the basket to come off. So we're able just to lift that basket off now. We can put the plates in there, just like that. Now we've got oil pump right here with the plastic gear. We've got the crank gear here. We've got a balancer gear here, the shift mechanism, and the Kickstarter gear. Kickstarter gear, we're going to be really careful with it, especially with these splines. If you are turning this, just make sure that you are secure on there. Make sure your pliers line up with those splines, and then just kind of work it out. Now this is all spring loaded, so again, hang on very tight to it. And we'll pull it out just like that. But you got to turn it to get it past the disengage arm there. So that's why you got to turn it back to get it past there, and then you can just pull it out. Again, it's spring loaded. Keep everything together. Make sure you hang on tight with those pliers. That way you aren't ruining these splines. So we'll go ahead and pull the balancer gear. All these gears will have to be taken off before you split the case. And you don't want to reuse these holders. 1 3/16 again. Hold the crank so that doesn't spin. Pull that one off there. Then we're able to get this crank gear off. We've got a keeper down here. That'll keep this gear on. So make sure you pull that before you remove that gear. And pull the balancer gear. 27 or 1 1/16. Go ahead and remove that one there. And this gear now will just pop off as well. This has got the springs in it. You don't want those springs to come out. Just kind of be careful removing it. Came off all together there. These springs again are in there. You can pull them off and just put those springs back in there, but thought we'd save some time just being patient and taking it slow there. Got an idler gear here we'll pull off. We'll also pull this oil pump off. The oil pump, I'll use an impact driver. First I'll pull a couple gears that are snap rings holding them on. That way these are out of the way. All right. We'll have to pull more snap rings before we split that case. Microfiche will show you where all these go back together at, or you can do a little bit better job than I'm doing with getting them, putting them with the gears right away instead of doing that later. So I'm going to turn that for now, keep that all together, that way we don't lose any pieces in the middle there while I pull some of these other parts off. This has got a spring-loaded arm down there. The screwdriver, just kind of tap on it. That'll a lot of times break that thread lock free. Be able to pull that off of there. Now this is also spring-loaded down in here, so just be careful removing these. We'll go have to pull this snap ring first on this shift mechanism. Finish pulling the Phillips screw on this shift star here, this shift detent. So now we'll be able to pull this shift rod out of there. These a lot of times will have splines that are damaged, so these get replaced quite often. Two more pieces here. That pin goes through all these. Oil pump off here. I'm going to go ahead and pull the Kickstarter, and then we'll be ready to split this case. Two 10mm holding this on, and they also have a keeper. 19mm drain plug on this, and it's a cap. And it's spring loaded with a screen, so just make sure you have it in that order. It'll sit cap, spring with the screen on the top there. Go ahead and pull this oil pump. Only 3 screws to remove this oil pump. That last one there doesn't go all the way through. This one here holds the oil pump together. Okay. Well, yeah. So we can flip this motor over now and split the case. I've got one more engine bolt here that needs to come apart. 14mm